Have you ever wondered why? Despite all your hard work, you still end up living. Like most people, why do those who truly turn their lives around seem to possess something you just can't grasp? Today, I'm going to tell you a brutal truth, a secret successful people would die to keep from the public. Think back carefully. All those deep regrets, biggest missed opportunities, and most painful remorse in your life, didn't they all happen after you chose the path that was more comfortable, easier, and more conforming? Think about it. Really think. Each of us is born with a built-in factory system. This system is called human nature. In ancient times, it helped our ancestors survive. Craving high-calorie food was for storing energy. Fearing danger was to avoid predators. The instinct to conform kept us from being cast out of tribe. But the problem is, today's world has changed. Resources are abundant, trapped in intense mental burnout. This old system instead becomes our biggest hurdle. Your human nature craves comfort, avoids pain, and chases instant gratification. But in this world, all the highest rewards, wealth, wisdom, and deep connections are built on delayed gratification, facing pain directly, and long-termism. Here lies the conflict. You want to turn things around, seeking out what only a few ever get, yet you follow what the majority does. That comfort-driven code. Is that even possible? So, the real essence of rising up isn't about new skills or chasing the next trend. It's an inward battle, a war against your own nature. You must learn to go against human nature to unlock massive long-term rewards. In today's breakdown, I'm going to share what those who truly broke through barriers they'd never willingly share, the underlying logic with you. Don't worry, I'm not asking you to become a cold robot. On the contrary, it's to help you take back control of your life, no longer held captive by those outdated instincts. And I'll tell you step by step exactly how to do it. Strategically betray your nature and turn them into a ladder for your ascent. There are 6 principles in total. Let's discuss them one by one. First, let's talk about the most common human nature trap, instant gratification. Inside your brain, there's an ancient reward system driven by dopamine. It tells you to eat when you're hungry, sleep when you're tired, scroll on your phone when you're bored, and play games when you're stressed. It seeks pleasure that can be obtained immediately right now. That's why, on a night you should be studying, you binge watch short videos, episode after episode. You look up and it's 2 a.m. On the first day, you resolve to lose weight. You're easily won over by a slice of cake. Then you comfort yourself, saying, I'll start tomorrow. You'll turn your salary into the latest phone and a pile of pretty clothes, instead of investing it in learning. That might only pay off years later. This isn't your fault. It's everyone's default setting. In psychology, there's a classic experiment called the marshmallow experiment. Researchers gave a group of kids 1 marshmallow each, telling them if they could wait 15 minutes without eating it, they'd get a second one. The kids who managed to wait over a decade later, in academics, careers, and relationships, were consistently much more successful than those who ate theirs immediately. This experiment reveals a brutal truth. Only those who master delayed gratification can truly win the future. So going against human nature starts with actively resisting instant pleasure. It doesn't mean you need to live like a strict ascetic. It's about clearly realizing that every easy thrill is mortgaging your future. The thrill of scrolling short videos drains your capacity for deep thought. The thrill of junk food ruins your physical health. The thrill of impulse buying wrecks your financial security. So how exactly do you do this? I'll give you 3 practical, down-to-earth methods. First, link the pain directly to the payoff. Stop telling yourself studying is pure torture. Instead, train your mind to picture the whole scene clearly. Study for 1 extra hour today. You've already beaten your past self by just 1%. Over a year, that compounds into staggering growth. Resist buying useless stuff today. Invest the money you save. In 10 years, it'll grow into real wealth. You need to keep that future marshmallow crystal clear in your mind. Let it shine bright and make it your beacon against immediate temptations. Second, design a small ritual. Fighting your instincts. Can't rely on willpower alone. Willpower gets drained fast. You need a ritual to kick things off. Say you want to start tough work. Spend 5 minutes clearing your desk first. Brew tea. Put on noise-canceling headphones. And tell yourself, okay, the next hour is my deep work time. I'm unplugged from the world. This simple ritual works like a psychological switch. It smoothly shifts you into the anti-human nature mindset. Third, cut off the source of temptation directly. Human nature can't withstand the test. The most effective approach isn't to put it to the test, but simply don't give it a chance. To study, put your phone in another room. To lose weight, don't keep any snacks at home. In ancient Greek mythology, Odysseus, to resist the siren song, had his crew tie him to the mast, admitting your weakness, your vulnerability, and using your environment and tools to restrain yourself is not shameful. That's wisdom. Remember, everything that makes you better, like reading, exercising, or deep thinking, is inherently anti-human nature. It's hard, it's uncomfortable, and turning your life around is about exchanging short-term pain for long-term gain. When you start to enjoy the higher pleasure that comes from delayed gratification, you're already ahead of 90% of people. The second persistent problem is avoiding difficulty and seeking ease. Our brain is a natural energy saver. It instinctively chooses the path of least resistance, the most familiar, the most comfortable. That's why you'd rather spend 3 hours switching between various apps, dealing with trivial matters. But for easy information, you're unwilling to spend an hour tackling a difficult professional book you'd rather keep doing work you're already proficient at and earn a stable salary. You're unwilling to challenge yourself with that project full of uncertainty, but which could bring immense growth. We always numb ourselves by pretending to work hard. We look busy, but we're just circling in our comfort zone. This comfort is the gentlest poison to growth. What truly brings about a qualitative change is always what lies outside your comfort zone. In educational psychology, there's a concept called necessary difficulty. Learning and growth aren't about being as easy as possible. Instead, they require a bit of just the right amount of difficulty and obstacles. Only then can knowledge and skills truly become ingrained in you. Just like working out, you must lift the weight that makes you struggle. Only then will your muscles tear, overcompensate, and become stronger. Just taking a walk every day won't change your body at all. The second step of going against human nature is to actively seek out and challenge this necessary difficulty. Here's a true story. The famous hockey player, Wayne Gretzky, as a child, didn't just play with kids his own age. Instead, his father often took him to play against older kids or even adults. At first, he got beaten badly, but it was precisely this difficulty of facing stronger opponents that honed his extraordinary on-ice vision and reaction speed. He later said, "If you don't play against people better than you, you'll never know how good you can be." Of course, ordinary people don't need to be that extreme, but the principle is universal. How do you do it? First, find your edge capability. Examine your current work and life, and find that skill you seem to have, but haven't quite mastered. This edge zone is your best training ground. For example, if you're a copywriter, great at short-form content, but your long-form logic is messy, then your necessary difficulty is to practice writing in-depth articles, over 3,000 words. If you're a programmer, you're very familiar with business code, but only vaguely understand underlying algorithms. Then your necessary difficulty is to solve a challenging algorithm problem every day. Second, gamify the challenge. When facing difficulties, human nature tends to retreat. But when facing games, human nature gets excited. Turn boring challenges into a gamified progression, setting clear levels and rewards for yourself. For example, if you finish a brain-teasing book, reward yourself with a movie. If you successfully complete a challenging project, give yourself a short break. Bind pain with immediate rewards. Use human nature to trick human nature. Third, establish a feedback loop. Working in your comfort zone doesn't require feedback because everything is under control. But in the challenge zone, feedback is your eyes and ears. If you write an article, find an expert to pinpoint the issues. If you're practicing a new skill, participate in a competition or test to see your true level. The worst thing is making blind efforts in isolation. High-quality feedback is crucial. Like a mirror, it shows you your shortcomings, making every struggle worthwhile. Stop indulging in the illusion of effortlessness. Every moment that feels a bit difficult, a bit uncomfortable, or a bit mind-bending isn't tormenting you, it's shaping you. The third bug, a powerful self-preservation mechanism. When we mess something up, to avoid the pain of thinking, "I'm no good, I'm useless," our brain immediately starts blaming others. "It's not my fault. The market is bad. It's bad luck. Others weren't cooperative. This method has issues." We are born defense attorneys, always finding perfect excuses for our failures. This self-forgiveness protects our fragile ego in the short term, but in the long run, it deprives us of the most valuable opportunity to learn from failure. If you always forgive yourself, the market won't forgive you, and life won't forgive you either. The third step to going against human nature is to stop being your own defense attorney. Start being your own chief prosecutor. You must learn to conduct a cold, even ruthless postmortem for every failure. I particularly admire one person, Japanese entrepreneur Inamori Kazuo. When he was young, he had an experimental failure. Months of hard work went to waste. He didn't make any excuses. Instead, he slept with that failed sample, pondering it repeatedly. Finally, from the color of the cracks, he discovered the root of the problem. He said, "You must face failure with an unbearable, unforgettable pain, and only then will the answer reveal itself." How do you conduct a high-quality, ruthless postmortem? First, the principle of factual neutrality. When starting a postmortem, never use any emotionally charged words. Don't say, "I foolishly missed that opportunity." Instead, say, "On date, the market showed signal A. I chose action B instead of C, which ultimately led to result D." Detach yourself like a referee recording data and only state objective facts. This is the first step to avoid falling into self-criticism or self-defense. Second, the root cause analysis method. For the direct cause of failure, ask 5 whys consecutively. For example, the project failed. Why? Because delivery was delayed. Why was it delayed? Because a critical module got stuck. Why did it get stuck? Because the colleague in charge lacked experience. Why assign an inexperienced person to a critical module? Because I thought at the time the task wasn't difficult and I wanted to give him a chance. Why did I misjudge the task's difficulty? Because before starting, I didn't fully assess the technical challenges. You see, by the end of the questioning, the root cause shifted from the colleague's inadequacy to my own decision-making error. That's an effective postmortem. Third, create an error log. A bad memory is better than a good pen. Write down the true lessons you learned from each postmortem. This log isn't a pillar of shame. It's your most valuable asset, your personal assets. Before making your next big decision, flip through it. See if there are similar situations and lessons you can learn from. The speed at which a person grows doesn't depend on how smart they are, but on how quickly they learn from their mistakes. Stop coddling and excusing yourself. Every failure is a paid lesson for cognitive upgrade. The tuition fee is your courage to face pain directly. Only those who dare to be ruthless with themselves can navigate the real world with ease. The fourth stubborn problem is social conformity. We're descendants of social animals. For our ancestors, leaving the group meant death. So, the desire to be accepted and the fear of isolation are deeply ingrained in our genes. Today, this innate tendency has evolved into this. When buying things, we instinctively check the bestsellers. When choosing a major or a job, we tend to go for what's popular, what everyone else is doing. When expressing an opinion, we first observe how others react, hesitating to voice dissent. We're afraid of being different, afraid of being an outlier. This craving for social conformity, it gives us a sense of security, but also blunts our edges and stifles creativity. True opportunities are never found where everyone else is flocking. When everyone is rushing in one direction, that direction often has no more advantages left, or is even a huge trap. Whether it's investing, entrepreneurship, or personal growth, real breakthroughs stem from independent thinking and judgment. So, the fourth step of going against human nature is to break free from social conformity and enjoy, or even actively choose, high-quality solitude. The solitude I'm talking about isn't about isolating yourself socially or becoming a recluse. It's a state of mind, an ability to block out external noise and focus on your own inner voice. German philosopher Schopenhauer said, "A person can only truly be themselves when alone. In a group, we play various roles. Son, husband, employee, friend. We wear masks, saying appropriate things, and doing what's expected. Only when you're alone can you drop the pretense. Talk to your true self. What do you truly want? What do you genuinely care about? Where's your life headed?" The answers to these ultimate questions can only emerge in solitude. How do you cultivate this ability? First, create a space for solitude. Every day or every week, set aside a period of time where you won't be disturbed at all. It could be an hour or even an entire afternoon. Turn off your phone, your computer, see no one. Go for a walk, visit a quiet cafe, or just zone out at home. This protected space is for clearing room in your mind, allowing those deep thoughts, often buried by daily chores, to surface. Second, actively filter information. We live in an age of information overload. News, gossip, and opinions flood our brains like a torrent, making us lose our independent thinking ability. You must learn to actively control your information intake. Unfollow media outlets and influencers that only incite emotions or provide junk information. Instead, read classics. Instead of scrolling through fragmented news, use deep thinking on one problem instead of browsing 100 headlines. Your mental world, just like the food you eat, needs careful management. Third, practice inversion thinking. When an idea or opportunity seems widely popular, when everyone says it's good, you need to develop an anti-human nature habit. Stop and think about its opposite. Where are the risks? What if everyone is wrong? Charlie Munger is a master of inversion thinking. He always said, invert, always think in reverse. This way of thinking allows you to see blind spots others miss and seize opportunities others can't. Remember, all great creations, all disruptive ideas are born in solitude. When you dare to walk the road less traveled, you might temporarily lose some applause, but you will ultimately win the entire world. The fifth fatal flaw, emotion-driven behavior. Our decisions are largely not dictated by careful logic, but hijacked by raw emotions like fear, greed, anger, or jealousy. Ever said something you instantly regretted out of pure impulse? Ever chased a rising stock, caught up in market frenzy, only to get trapped in heavy losses? Ever covered up a mistake that should have been exposed early, just to dodge your boss's criticism, letting it blow up into a disaster? In every case, your emotions were calling the shots. Our brain's wiring dictates that the amygdala, which handles feelings, fires signals way faster than the rational prefrontal cortex. So under stress, we always feel first, think later. If you can't master your emotions, you'll never control your life. Your emotions are like a wild horse. Untrained, it will charge you right off a cliff. Step 5 of going against human nature is to build a rational firewall between the trigger and the response. Learn to be the master of your emotions, not their slave. The best example to learn from is investor Ray Dalio. He once said in an interview that when he was young, he once, due to overconfidence, bet his entire fortune on a long position. The market crashed, and he was almost bankrupt. After that collapse, he didn't complain or blame others. Instead, he suppressed his emotions and calmly wrote down a set of decision-making principles. These later became the cornerstone of Bridgewater Associates. He said, pain plus reflection equals progress. Pain itself has no value, but with rational reflection, it becomes the greatest wealth. How do you build this firewall? First, learn to pause for 6 seconds. When emotions run high, like anger, fear, or greed, give yourself a 6-second buffer. Take a deep breath, count to 6, and let your rational prefrontal cortex catch up. These 6 seconds can prevent 90% of impulsive decisions. Second, write down your decisions. Don't just think about them in your head. Grab a piece of paper and write down what emotion you're feeling now. Then write down the objective facts. And finally, what you plan to do. The act of writing it down is a rational intervention in itself. Third, preset decision checklists. Think in advance. If the market crashes, what will I do? If someone provokes me, what will I do? If I face a huge temptation, what will I do? Write down rational rules in advance. So when emotions arise, just follow the rules directly, instead of reacting impulsively. A truly mature person isn't without emotions, but isn't controlled by them. This is ultimate wisdom and a must-have quality for turning things around. The last one, and the most fundamental, anti-human nature principle, is to counter mental laziness. The brain, like a muscle, strengthens with use and weakens with disuse. But human nature is inherently lazy to think. We prefer to accept ready-made conclusions rather than deriving them ourselves. We prefer to use simple labels to define complex things rather than exploring the underlying principles. We prefer to rely on past experiences rather than adapting to new situations. Adjust your mindset. This mental laziness in daily life might seem harmless, but fundamentally, it locks you out from any possibility of upward breakthrough. In this era, the most fundamental gap between people is no longer an information gap, but a gap in the depth of thinking. Given the same information, some only see the surface, while others can see trends. Facing the same problem, some only think of conventional solutions, while others can conceive disruptive solutions. This difference comes from the willingness to engage in deep thinking. So, the sixth step of going against human nature is to actively combat mental laziness and deliberately train your thinking ability, like you train a muscle. The ultimate representative in this regard is Elon Musk. He repeatedly emphasizes a concept called first principles thinking. It means breaking things down, returning to the most basic, unshakable axioms and facts, and then rebuilding from that foundation. When he builds rockets, he doesn't think about how to make existing rockets cheaper. Instead, he asks, what are the fundamental components of a rocket? Aluminum, titanium, copper, carbon fiber. These raw materials, how much do they cost on the market? They only account for 2% of a rocket's total cost. So the problem must be in the manufacturing process. He He then decided to build it himself from scratch, reducing costs by 90% and disrupting the entire industry. This is the power of deep thinking. It requires immense mental effort and is extremely anti-human nature, but it can give you unparalleled insight. How can ordinary people practice deep thinking? First, develop the habit of asking, why until you get to the bottom of things. Don't easily accept any conclusion. For every point of view, ask at least 5 whys. For example, if someone says, short videos are the biggest trend right now, you should ask, why is it a trend? Whose benefit is it? What are my advantages? Is it too late to join now? How long will this trend last? By thinking these through, your decisions won't be blind imitation. Second, practice thematic reading. Stop being satisfied with. Instead of reading randomly, set a theme for yourself. For example, communication skills, investment in finance, or artificial intelligence. Then, over 1 or 2 months, gather the 5 to 10 most classic books on that topic and read them intensively. You'll find different authors discussing the same problem from various angles, sometimes even contradicting each other. This process will force you to compare, discern, and integrate, ultimately forming your own comprehensive and profound cognitive framework. Third, the Feynman learning technique. Learn by teaching. After learning something new, try to explain it in the simplest, plainest language to someone who knows nothing about it. For example, a family member or even a child. During the explanation, you'll immediately discover where you didn't truly understand or where your logic broke down. This process of output driving input is the touchstone for testing whether you've truly mastered knowledge. It's also the best way to combat pretending you've learned something. Physical laziness ruins your physique. Mental laziness can derail your life. In this rapidly changing world, the only thing that can make you invincible is not the knowledge you already possess, but your continuous ability to acquire high-quality insights. And this ability, precisely, is built upon deep thinking that goes against mental laziness. All right, we've covered all 6 laws. Let's quickly recap. Against instant gratification, exchange it for delayed gratification for long-term happiness. Against avoiding difficulty and seeking ease, achieve true growth through necessary difficulty. Against self-forgiveness, use ruthless postmortems to turn failures into cognitive stepping stones. Against social conformity, listen to your true inner voice. In active solitude, against emotion-driven behavior, build a rational firewall and become the master of your emotions. Against mental laziness, use deep thinking to fundamentally differentiate yourself from others. I know that each of these 6 paths is incredibly challenging to walk. It means you have to give up the immediate comfort, facing your own weakness directly, enduring temporary loneliness, and resisting innate impulses. This process is full of struggle and pain. But what I want to tell you is this: making a comeback has never been an easy or pleasant thing. Essentially, it's a war against yourself. The reason you were ordinary in the past isn't because you didn't work hard enough, but because your efforts were all spent on paths that aligned with human nature. You were using tactical diligence to cover up strategic laziness. But today you understand that true change comes from looking inward. These 6 principles are not meant to make you hate your human nature. Instead, they're to help you understand it and then transcend it. Like a skilled chess player, they don't kill the wild horse. Instead, they understand its wildness and then use superb skill and strong will to tame it, harnessing its power and use it to your advantage. We are born human, endowed with human nature, this ancient operating system, but we are also given free will, a higher level permission. You can choose to let this old system run automatically, leading you to mediocrity and regret, or you can choose to deliberately and bravely reboot your life script with your free will. Finally, let me share a quote. Psychologist M. Scott Peck wrote at the beginning of The Road Less Traveled, "Life is difficult." This is a great truth, one of the greatest truths. Its greatness lies in the fact that, once we understand it, we can transcend life. The path to turning your life around is inherently challenging, inherently anti-human nature. And when you truly understand and accept this, congratulations, your transformation has already begun. Thank you for watching until the end. If you found this helpful, don't forget to give it a like. See you next time. This audio was generated by Moeen Workshop AI.